Adapting to the impacts of climate change has become an important priority for many governments. For example, in places like here in Venice, Italy, which is used to dealing with flooding, but has seen an ever-increasing frequency and intensity of flooding. 2019 registering the most intense flooding in over 5 decades. Adaptation, as the recent report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has underscored, is very important to reduce the negative impacts that are resulting from climate change, in addition to very strong reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. The focus has shifted over the recent years to implementation, from planning to implementation. And so an important question has been, to what extent does adaptation take place, and to what extent does it reduce climate risks? And there have been 2 recent outputs which have addressed this question. One is a large research project called the Global Adaptation Mapping Initiative, where more than 120 researchers have synthesized the entire scientific literature to see where adaptation is taking place, who is taking action, in which sectors, and what the results are. And the findings from this research are reported in the November 2021 issue of the journal Nature Climate Change. Another one is the adaptation gap published at the COP, and it's looking at progress on gaps in adaptation in planning, finance, and implementation. First, the Paris Agreement has been the first globally binding agreement to take adaptation to climate change to the international level. However, it's important to keep in mind that the responsibility for implementing adaptation often lies with national and subnational governments, which is different from mitigation, which as a global public good has to be regulated at the global level. So in fact, many of the provisions on adaptation in the Paris Agreement are voluntary for countries, not mandatory, with the exception of the provision of support to developing countries, which is mandatory. The UK presidency of COP26 has put a special emphasis on adaptation and resilience. There will be an adaptation day on 8th of November, and the main topics to be discussed on adaptation will be to look at what progress has been made globally and what the negotiations can do at the global level to advance adaptation practice, and specifically on further support for developing countries to help them to adapt to the impacts of climate change. That's what the COP will be looking at, and there will be many events and publications being launched, so inviting you to have a look, including on the coverage from the Grantham Research Institute. Thank you.